Okay, thank you, Dr. Majdi, and a special thanks to the Institute for Palestine Studies for organizing this conference. And again, I really apologize that I'm prepared to give my presentation in English. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In the coming 20 minutes, I'm going to give you an overview of the development policies, initiatives, and approaches for working in Area C. For the purpose of this presentation, the use of the term Area C always includes East Jerusalem. As you all know, currently 64% of the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem, is under full and direct Israeli control. Without conserving Palestinian strategic land reserves, there can be no territorially contiguous, sovereign, and viable Palestinian state. Therefore, in order to preserve the viability of the two-state solution, bring justice to our people, and peace and security to the region, increased attention must be given to the areas fully controlled by Israel, especially Area C, including East Jerusalem, to the development of the Palestinian communities located therein, and to the natural growth of the Palestinian population and economy from currently populated centers into Area C. In simple words, Area C is Palestine. Area C is the West Bank. Areas under limited Palestinian self-government, so-called Area A and B, are isolated enclaves within the West Bank, or in Area C, which remains occupied by Israel and is under the full control of its government and military and subject to the violence of the Israeli settlers. The establishment of a viable state of Palestine is impractical without simultaneously developing all of the land in the West Bank. Again, I repeat this, is impractical without simultaneously developing all of the land in the West Bank, A, B, and C. As a result of the Israeli policies of separation, annexation, expansion, and confiscation, we are left with a situation, you and us, where we have an uneven development between the three different areas. Area A and B are more developed because we have more freedom to function and implement more projects in Area A and B versus the development in Area C. So our role, basically, is to bridge the gap between all of these different areas, and I'm going to present how we could do that. It is not secret anymore to you or to everybody that significant natural resources and basic infrastructure are located within Area C. For example, Area C contains the major water resources, natural gas resources, and mineral resources of the West Bank, as well as the quarries, thereby making Area C the backbone of the Palestinian economy, especially the agricultural industry. Area C is thus critical for meeting the needs of a growing Palestinian population. It is necessary to redouble our efforts in these strategic areas and to do our utmost to provide equitable development opportunities to all Palestinian communities. Now, currently in the current reality, developing or executing a plan for Area C and for bridging the gap between A, B, and C, and for area where we have absolutely no control whatsoever, is not an easy task to do. I'm not going to go through the obstacles of the Israelis or the benefits of Area C, but simply we almost need a permit to breathe in Area C and East Jerusalem. Therefore, the development that all of us are talking about, are meeting today to talk about Area C, development and living under Israeli occupation are two mutually exclusive concepts. The Palestinian people continue to be deprived of any meaningful development so long as they have to suffer from a hostile and expansionist Israeli occupation regime, which impacts every single aspect of Palestinian social and economic life, as well as the natural resources and environment. Few figures, other than what my colleagues has covered yesterday and today. Since the year 2000, some 6,000 Palestinian houses and structures were demolished in so-called Area C, not including East Jerusalem, with a steep increase in demolitions over the past 2 years. This Israeli policy has forcibly displaced thousands of Palestinians in stark violation of international humanitarian law and international human rights laws. Since 2009 alone, 3,000 Palestinians have been displaced. Altogether, in Area C, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip, more than 12,400 structures have been demolished. That's all since the year 2000 in the entire occupied Palestinian territory, rendering tens of thousands of new Palestinian refugees. Economic and social losses are also beyond imagination. All of you have looked at the ARIJ reports and the Ministry of National Economy reports. All of you have heard the astonishing figures of losses in Area C for the economy, for water, for tourism, for infrastructure. And simply with children having to stay away from their families. I met these children and I met these families for an entire week in order for them to be able to go to schools in Area B is another stark violation of human rights laws. The separation of families and people from each other. And I also mentioned about the economic losses. When it comes to the Ministry of Planning, the Palestinian National Development Plan, and of course before that the Palestinian Reform and Development Plan, and the plans before that are sectorally based plans. They're not geographically based plans. These plans focus on our needs and priorities across Palestine, Area A, B, and C, East Jerusalem, Gaza, Seam Zone, Jordan Valley, etc., in all of the 32 currently sectors, identified sectors. This was intentionally designed because, and I repeat this twice, because politically and nationally, we cannot create separate plans for Gaza, and another plan for Area C, and another plan for seam zones, another plan for Jordan Valley, another plan for East Jerusalem, another plan for Jenin, another plan for Ramallah, because politically this is wrong. This whole Palestinian territory is one territory. And we plan accordingly, we plan based on our needs across the sectors. However, of course, we put emphasis on interventions in areas that they are of utmost needs and they are under threat from the Israeli occupation regime. In addition, we should be practical and flexible when we think about policies and interventions in area like Area C. Area C, honestly speaking, does not need more bureaucracy or does not need the Ministry of Planning, for that matter, to work for 5 years on a strategy for Area C, waiting for the land to continue to be confiscated and for our resources to continue to be deprived from our own use. Does not need an additional complications from ourselves, basically. The Ministry of Planning currently focuses on the key principles and the key policies and is engaging our international partners to advance our agenda in Area C. And to achieve our agenda and our overall goals, we pursue basically 4 main core policy objectives. And these 4 main core policy objectives were included in our position paper to the last AHLC meeting last March. But simply, very quickly, these 4 main policy objectives are to proactively tackle the growing phenomena of uneven development between the different areas and also the inequitable social economic conditions, which is particularly pressing in Area C. Number 2, to strengthen local government institutions, like my colleague from the Ministry of Local Government has indicated. throughout the occupied Palestinian territory as a key component of the overarching strategy to address uneven development and social delivery. And here, there is a particular focus on Area C. Number 3 is to focus on the implementation of the Palestinian rights over our natural resources, especially water, and the utilization of these resources in all of Palestine for the benefit of all Palestinian people. Area C is not only about the 149, we might disagree on the exact number of the communities in Area C, is not only about these communities, it's about the entire Area C. And not only that, is also the vice versa development from Area A and B into Area C. Our people who live in Area A and B needs to be able to use the natural resources, the facilities, the lands, the economic activities, and encourage even immigration in a way from Area A and B into Area C. An internal domestic migration from Area A and B into Area C. We have no choice. This is the only place where we could expand and where we could develop. And number 4 is to support the steadfastness of our communities threatened directly by Israeli settlement and the settler violence. Now, to materialize that, as I said, we are working with our international partners, local and also international partners. All of us understand the complexities of working in Area C. And again, to be honest, without the support of our international friends and international partners, we cannot be effective in achieving our objectives in Area C, as well as our local partners. This is why the Minister of Planning, and I'm sure all of my colleagues from all of the other Palestinian institutions, are engaging in working and strategizing with the civil society organizations, with the private sector, and also with our international partners. And our strategy is based basically on 3 main pillars. And I will also say briefly after that about how we are trying to achieve these 3 main pillars during our negotiation and work with the international community. These 3 main pillars are based on protection. Our people need protection, first and foremost. Protection from demolitions, protection from settler violence, and we need the help of the international community to make sure our people are being protected. The second pillar is the steadfastness. This is a political question, political problem before anything else. Some of you perhaps remember that figure better than I do, but in 1967, we had more than 300,000 Palestinians in Area C. Currently, according to our figures, we have around 150,000 Palestinians in Area C. If the situation is normal, these 300 and plus who were in Area C in 1967, we should have easily more than 1 million Palestinians in Area C, while we currently have a little bit even less than 150,000 Palestinians. So the steadfastness of our people on their lands, in their houses, is one of the main objectives and strategy for us. This is why we focus on providing also humanitarian aid. We work with our international partners to provide humanitarian aid, basic infrastructure, basic services, whether water, electricity, roads, telecommunication, etc. And of course, social services, schools and health and social protection. So these basic services are very much needed to make sure that these services will help our people steadfast in Area C. And the third pillar is development. Because the Palestinian state will not be created on a humanitarian project. The Palestinian state will not be created on a small basic infrastructure project. The Palestinian state will only be created on a strategically important projects, We cannot survive without having wastewater treatment plants. We cannot survive without having solid waste management plants. We cannot survive without having an export and import, airports, ports, and etc. That they are really located in area C, major railway, roads, highways, universities, etc. So these development projects, that they are very much needed, and we are working with our governmental institutions, local and international partners to make sure that these projects are being advanced and implemented in area C.
دكتور اصطيفان ضايل 3 دقائق.
Okay. As well as also economic activities, of course, and to give more opportunity for the private sector to grow and to prosper and to be able to compete not only domestically and regionally, but also internationally. Finally, in terms of our cooperation with the international community, we are, and I thank Minister Shaddad for complimenting us on the message that we try to give to our international partners, because simply the current status quo of acquiring permits from the Israelis is not working. If anyone currently present today can tell me, stand up today and tell me the current status quo is working, I will stop my presentation right now and I will leave the room. We have been waiting 11 years, Dr. Shaddad knows that, 11 years for one project, the wastewater treatment plant in West Nablus, 11 years to get a permit from the Israelis to build this plant. This is not working, so this is why we are negotiating and encouraging and lobbying our international partners is to please, at the very least, put a time limit on the permits being submitted to the Israelis. We cannot make this process an open, endless process. This is why there are numbers, that's a specific time frame. I don't want to talk about the specific time frame right now because they are not yet formally approved by the cabinet. But we are talking about very specific, realistic time frames for a basic projects and also for a mega projects that will allow us to implement these projects with the help of the international community. And to tell you the truth, we have found, surprisingly speaking, a very positive response from a lot of our international partners, especially European partners. A lot of them are in support of our new strategy in approaching the Israelis, in acquiring permits, and also in advancing our priorities in Area C. I could go, if one of the questions will be around that, I could go through details, because we have 11 items of details on how this is all 11 items of messages to the international partners of how we should work together in advancing our agenda, in Area C and East Jerusalem. So there are really a lot of details. I don't need to go through these details. I will stop here. I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you.